All right, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Martinez from Creating Coding Careers, where we help aspiring developers transition into ServiceNow and web development roles. Our next guest speaker played a pivotal role in our success. For those of you who don't know, Creating Coding Careers is a tech apprenticeship where we help our apprentices develop their coding skills and ServiceNow development skills through our apprenticeship curriculum. After they've gained those skills, they're placed with a partner company where they get to work side by side with professionals in the industry for several months, where they get to level up further and get ready for gainful employment. Our success stems from these same partnerships. Today's guest saw the value in the tech apprenticeship model and opened up his doors to our apprentices, allowing them to grow and thrive in the ServiceNow ecosystem. He's quite the hero around the organization. He's also known for pushing the boundaries of the user experience with the creation of a little thing called the ServicePortal. Please welcome Nathan, the Godfather of the ServicePortal, Firth. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks, Alex.
So we usually like asking our guests to share their origin story. Pretty much, how did you get involved with the ServiceNow platform? If you can rewind and take us back to that story.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Alex. Let's see. So I've been an entrepreneur and software engineer my whole life. But about 12 years ago, I was working on an e-commerce startup, and we had a nice little clean exit where we had another company that acquired my platform, and it kind of gave me a clean slate to kind of explore where I wanted to go next. And I ended up getting a job for a company called Mir3 in Sorrento Valley, and they were a ServiceNow customer. And so that was kind of my first opportunity to get a chance to play with ServiceNow as a platform. And this was back in, 2010, something like that. And after working there, overseeing some of their professional services, after a couple of years, I had a recruiter that reached out to me and brought up the opportunity to go to ServiceNow. And, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that ServiceNow was going to be the next big thing. And so in 2012, I joined ServiceNow to work on their UI team.
And I see that this is back in 2012 when you first started working at ServiceNow, and then you diverted to Ikorio and then went back to ServiceNow. Can you tell us? Because I remember we were listening to your podcast or your session with Robert Fedoruk, and I guess there was something. There was a meeting between you and Fred Ludy at the time that where he had actually invited you to be the lead on the ServicePortal. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I worked at ServiceNow on the UI team. I helped work on some of the early mobile and tablet applications, and I discovered the CMS, which was the only portion of the platform where we could really, build custom UIs and custom applications at the time. And so I really started kind of exploring and dabbling with that. And then I had the opportunity to go work at Ikorio for a little bit. And so I left ServiceNow and went to Ikorio, where I really started diving into building out custom portals. And I started noticing that as we were in, so I'll take a step back. So at that time, no one had ever built a fully responsive portal built on Bootstrap in ServiceNow at the time. And so I made that my mission. And then I recorded and documented the whole process, started posting videos on YouTube. And I started noticing that we were getting phone calls left and right coming in from, Time Magazine, I think reached out, Johnson & Johnson, all these big companies were reaching out, asking for information on how we did this. So I started building out tutorials, trying to show everyone how we had built this portal. And then one of the phone calls I got was someone letting me know that Fred Luddy had caught attention of some of my videos and tutorials. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, Fred asked me if I wanted to go out to lunch, and he invited me to come back to ServiceNow and be the lead architect overseeing the development of a brand new product that they had just started working on, which became what is today known as ServicePortal.
And then at some point, you dedicated yourself to the ServicePortal and you created this great organization called the NewRocket. And
Yeah.
I would love to hear the story now that we have actually, I see Mike just got on. I'd love to hear the story of how creating coding careers and NewRocket, created that first relationship. Either
Yeah.
Mike or Nathan. I'd love to hear how this happened.
Yeah. You want me to start, Nathan?
Sure.
All right. So, Nathan and I have known each other for quite some time, but we met through another rock star in the ServiceNow space, and that's Todd Basher over at NewRocket. And I feel like one of the impressions I had of Nathan, even before I met him, was largely shaped by Todd, and that is Nathan loves to mentor folks and loves to like develop people and invest in him. So I felt super comfortable at the time saying, hey, you guys got this shop over there, NewRocket, and this is early on. I think you guys were pretty early still with NewRocket, right? Where you're like maybe a couple of years in when we sort of like pitched this idea of like, hey, if we were to train people in the ServiceNow space, would they be helpful? Like, would you be able to onboard new people and sort of be able to like mentor and help? But that only happens when someone is like willing to, one, try something new, try something very experimental, and then two, really wants to mentor people. It really wants to help people grow and thrive. And so I just feel phenomenally lucky that I happen to know two ex rock stars at ServiceNow that went off and decided to do their own thing and really specialize in this thing and want to carry and bring other people into the ecosystem. And so I'll pause there and say like, that's kind of how like Nathan and I kind of got to know each other a little bit better, and how impressed I am with the opportunities they've created at such an early stage for their organization, for our organization. And I'll let him tell, what do you think in terms of like how this has maybe been effective or helpful for your organization, or hasn't, either way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, NewRocket wasn't, in the beginning, it was just Todd and I. We had both recently left ServiceNow. We knew the problem and the mission that we had, which was to improve the employee experience on the ServiceNow platform. But it's not like we raised a round of money. It's not like, we were literally just scraping by with whatever we had to even just be able to go to the knowledge conference and try to close our first deals. And so as soon as we started, getting a little bit of work coming in, we knew immediately that we were way over our head as far as projects go. And we knew we needed to be able to bring some people in. And once we start taking a look at, the average salaries within the ServiceNow ecosystem, it's no secret that ServiceNow engineers demand a pretty significant salary and compensation. And we didn't have 401k, we didn't have health and benefits, we didn't have anything, because we were a brand new company. And so the only option we had was to start with hungry, passionate developers that were earlier in their career that we could train and mentor to get into the ServiceNow ecosystem. And the other thing that I think was really in our favor was the fact that we weren't looking for someone that had full broad ServiceNow experience. We were looking for someone that could learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in the specific portion of the platform that we needed, the service portal. And this made it very easy for us to start to train people up, because this is a very specific kind of niche of ServiceNow. And so we started partnering, with coding schools. We started looking at different colleges and universities and just trying to find someone graduating with, a CS degree. And, very early on, Todd turned me on to you, Mike, and said we had to have a conversation. And I will say, out of all of our efforts that we've done to bring engineers that are newer in their career into NewRocket, partnering with you has been the probably biggest success that we've ever had. I don't actually know if we've ever had a candidate come through your group that we didn't end up hiring within a matter of months, because just the quality of the training that they get going through your program has just been astounding.
Appreciate that. It is really about just like picking some good folks and then letting them just like taking some of those barriers out of the way and letting them shine. And so I just feel so fortunate that we've been able to find great people out there with like all this potential, and then be able to take some of those barriers out of the way, mostly by just like paying them, right? Giving them an opportunity where they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to go super deep and super heavy. And you make a super excellent point that I had never really thought about that way, which is like ServicePortal is such a, like, it's a place in the ecosystem where you can really leverage your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills and not have to have as much of that like deep knowledge of this big platform. That isn't on the surface. It's interesting because a lot of folks coming into the ecosystem will say that like, oh, ServiceNow is like a no code, low code platform. So I'll ask you this final question I'll ask is, what are your thoughts when someone says that like, oh, ServiceNow, isn't that the low code, no code platform? Like, am I going to be able to use my HTML and JavaScript and CSS skills on the platform?
ServiceNow definitely has elements of it that are very low code and no code, but that's also assuming that you're going to take what ServiceNow provides you and do mostly configuration. And they do have, some new kind of app templates and new low code builders where you can create some tables, create relationships, and put an out of box UI on top of it. But as soon as you're looking for something that is going to be, for example, with a portal, if you're looking for something that's going to be branded to your organization, where we actually take a look at who are your employees, why are they coming to the portal, what are we trying to solve, what are the organizational goals, that's a very specific experience, and you're not going to be able to achieve that just using configuration. So although ServiceNow is a great low no code platform that kind of brings in the citizen developer and lets them go really far, that will work great for certain applications. But as soon as we're talking, the intranet, the employee portal, the digital workplace experience, those are areas where we're going to need to, not just have engineers and developers, but also UI, UX designers and user researchers, and so that we can actually deliver not just a pretty experience, but something that's actually going to be really solving, the problems for employees. And that's ultimately what we do at NewRocket is, we're not just about making ServiceNow pretty, we're about really actually delivering an extraordinary digital workplace experience.
Love it. And again, I think it's so valuable that we've got the Godfather, and you heard it from him, from his lips to your ears. There are plenty of technical opportunities on the platform, and it's not just like pass your CSA and you're going to be configuring, the platform. There's so many places where you can go super deep and you can exercise those skills of like building something on top of the platform that can really leverage all those creative technical skills that you might have. So you also, I happen to know that NewRocket has some prescriptive solutions and products. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe like what have you now been able to evolve and create in terms of like, you got something called Rocket Fuel, I think, or something.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
What's that about?
So my whole way of looking at things is I don't want to work as harder than I have to. I'm always looking, how can I work smarter? How can I deliver more value for our customers? And one of the things that I found after, we had been building out, around 100 different portals or so, I started to realize that there was so much commonality from project to project. And so the analogy I've been using with my team is, what I'm looking for is how do we build the perfect 1,000-hour portal, but in 200 hours of actual time. And then, maybe we can do value-based pricing or meet the customer halfway, because the value that we deliver to a customer by providing that portal at a fraction of the time is far more valuable than if we actually spent the full 1,000 hours to deliver that portal, right? Because they're getting something much faster than it would normally take if it was just based on billable hours. So we've been really thinking, how do we take so much of the work that we do in productizing, have continuous innovation and productization that enables us to deliver a better experience for the employees and a better value for our customers, and do it in a way that benefits NewRocket, because we're probably going to see better margins on our projects, but in a way that ultimately delivers better value to the customer and at a fraction of the typical implementation costs. And that's where we've built out products like Rocket Fuel, which is our UI components library, which acts as the building blocks of a portal theme. And then we have a number of other products. We have Launchpad, which is our portal accelerator. And then we have Orbit, which is a content management system that we've built out that is really, really extraordinary in what it does. We also have a translation assistant that enables us to translate a portal into multiple languages, and it can provide a series of reports on coverage where you have maybe some missing translations for specific strings or verbs throughout the portal. And then now NewRocket is a much larger organization. Now we're no longer just a portal company. NewRocket now we're now a full ServiceNow implementer and consultancy. So as part of that, we now have a number of other products as well.
I'd like to know, Nathan, for all the apprentices in the house and all the people coming from the Next Gen program, I'm sure they'd love to hear, if we want to go work for NewRocket and we're in love with this the portal, we obviously need to know, the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But outside of the hard skills and the actual certs, what kind of soft skills do you look for when you guys are looking for talent?
So for me personally, passion. I just want to see hunger. I want to see people that are willing to do what's necessary. So one of my criteria has always been, I don't want to hire someone that I constantly have to tell what to do. I want to hire people that will come in, figure out where the company is going, what's our vision, like what's the direction that we're going, and figure out all the things that need to be done to help us get there. And then let's just go full force. And that has, like, when I take a look at, that original crew, I mean, they are, even the team that I manage now, I don't have to tell them what to do. They provide me with updates on all the things that are happening, but they know how to just dive in and make stuff happen. And I love that. So that's always been, that's the thing that I'm looking for. Even if you don't have, the technical skills, if you're hungry, you will acquire the technical skills, to get it done. So.
Yeah, I love that. Hey everybody, I'm Deontay Hall, former coding careers apprentice. You guys have already seen me. Just want to introduce myself, but I have a question. How did your experience, or I should say it like this, what are 3 things that you would tell, or any amount of things actually, that you would tell the next person that may have like those aspirations or like that entrepreneurial spirit on the side to kind of like, okay, so you just said you would see a company, you see the organization, you see their vision, and sometimes somebody may be in that position and their vision may kind of, may not go in that direction. So, and I know that that's something that you've had experience with. So I'm like, that's something I wanted to just ask is how did you approach that? And what steps did you take to kind of build that plan and, kind of realize what route you would go?
Yeah. So my approach to just even entrepreneurialism is that we're resourceful, right? I feel like everyone, regardless of your walk of life or where you live, we're always, bombarded with all these different opportunities. And an entrepreneur is just one that is constantly on the lookout for those opportunities. And then also there's that huge element of risk. We're willing to actually take the risk to, and like, for example, in my position, step down from my role, step down from a cushy salary working as a senior engineer at ServiceNow and take the risk of starting a company. Doesn't always work out, but in my case, I'm so happy that I took that leap of faith. But the thing that I think is very critical also to being an entrepreneur, and probably one of the things that I would say is a huge element that's going to help towards success is, I don't like to build things in hopes that customers will come and then I can sell it. I'm always looking for what are the things that I can do to solve an actual problem for a customer. And if they have that problem and I'm able to solve that problem for them, then maybe there's additional companies or additional customers out there that would need the similar solution. And so even for all of our products that we've built, that's kind of been our philosophy is, we'll have a thesis, we'll have an idea of what we're trying to solve, but let's go find someone that actually has that problem and let's build it based on their specifications and do it for them. But we'll, denote in our contract that we want to hold on to the intellectual property rights, so that the next time, we come across a company that has similar needs, now we can turn around and do it again. And then over time, after, 2 or 3 projects, next thing you know, you might actually have, a full product in a company. And, that was kind of the whole philosophy of NewRocket. We saw a problem and we found some companies that were willing to pay us to help solve that problem. And now, well over 1,000 customers later, here we are.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy. And that goes into a quote that I actually wanted to bring up, that you said in a previous video. You guys, he had a quirky video. I think it was that you did it. You said a pitch, for your idea of an app that would open a garage door, but you said a really important, a really powerful quote in there. You said, find a problem, solve it, and see if you can do it for other people. To me, that's big, because a lot of people are looking deeper for, how do I do this? How the entrepreneur mindset. And they don't realize that a lot of times that's like the first step to take, is just to like find that problem. So I love that, man. I have another question for you, if you don't mind. How did you go about creating the Now mobile UI? So back, coming back to the ServicePortal and, NewRocket and everything like that. I know that you guys kind of were one of the first people on that, mobile, like, bringing it into the mobile space and like making it, put it in their pocket, as you said before. So I was just curious as to like, what steps did you take to kind of bring NewRocket into that and, into the UI factor, if it was at all?
You're specifically around mobile?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ServiceNow obviously has, I think at this point, probably four or five different mobile apps, and we have done implementations on all of their mobile solutions that they offer. And for a lot of use cases, those work great. And in the more recent versions, now you can also do branding, and you can upload your own logo and have your own loading screen. But one of the things that we found for a lot of the clients that were coming to us was that they wanted to have a custom mobile app in the app stores that was completely private labeled for their users, that would also use their UI, their branding, their everything. And that was not something that we've been able to accomplish using the out-of-box features that we get from ServiceNow around mobile. So we very painstakingly developed our own mobile solution. And we've gone back and forth on a bunch of different technology stacks. We tried doing React Native, which ended up not working out as well for our use case. We started experimenting with Swift and Objective-C and Java, and doing it as a native mobile apps in the native languages. And finally, where we settled, we now have put together a little mobile team here at NewRocket that specializes in Flutter, which is a Google product that enables us to, from a single code base, to be able to deploy mobile apps both on iOS and Android, and it still gives us kind of a completely clean canvas to be able to build out any user experience that we want. And on top of that platform, we've now built out all of the standard ServiceNow functionality. So everything around, authentication, single sign-on, lists, forms, service catalog, record producers. So that means that, when we are working with a ServiceNow customer that is really interested in a truly, custom mobile experience, now we're able to build out, a full app exactly based on their needs, and then also style it and integrate it with ServiceNow. Wow.
And that's like a big, crazy evolution from like the idea that I saw you had with the Duke in that podcast. So that's congratulations on that, man.
Thank you.
It's evolved.
Got a question from the LinkedIn audience. That's okay, Nathan.
Yeah.
This is Anna Davis, one of our apprentices. She asked, Nathan, what is your most favorite aspect of a ServiceNow service portal?
That is a good question. My favorite aspect of a ServiceNow service portal. I'm a UI guy. So to me, it's all about the experience. I know for some people, it's all about the art of the code and things like that. But I really love when you see something truly extraordinary from a UI perspective. And kind of pushing the limits of what's possible, especially when you're operating within the confines of a platform that, so ServicePortal, it's not perfect, right? There's certain UIs that would be very difficult to build out, but even internally here at NewRocket, we've started building out more kind of single page portals that, where as you click, the portal is scrolling and evolving and expanding with some pretty neat effect. So I think that's my thing. I just love seeing beautiful experiences and, kind of pushing the boundaries on the UI side.
We have another person in the audience. This is Denisha Elias, who just mentioned that she's also already learning Flutter. She asks, what sparked your focus on portals?
So that one was pretty easy. I was working at ServiceNow. I was the lead developer and lead architect developing ServicePortal together with Fred Luddy. And I was sitting in a all hands meeting, and Frank Slootman, who was the CEO at the time, said pretty much to the tune of, I have, traveled and met with most of the CIOs and CTOs across our customer base. And the number one complaint against ServiceNow has been astoundingly clear that it's the end user experience. And so I found myself in this position where I'm developing a product that also happens to be the solution to the number one complaint and the number one customer issue with ServiceNow. And the thing that I'm also passionate about is UIs and user experience. So I would much rather be on the implementation side of actually helping to deliver extraordinary experiences on the platform, working with real customers, than say working on a product team where I'm fixing defects and bugs. And so that made it pretty easy for me to step down and build out a company that really focused on portals.
Yeah. And just to focus on the importance of that, I just wanted to kind of ask you, so how would that have looked, before the implementation of the implementation of the service portal? How would that have looked for an end user, seeing that form with, I'll let you explain it, seeing, what did you, I just wanted to pretty much for you to kind of break down, the difference between the end user experience and what an end user would need and a fulfiller, and why it was a need to separate those two.
Yeah. So, the end user, to quote some of our customers, they don't like ServiceNow. They don't want to know what ServiceNow is. They don't want to log into that interface. And the less that they know about ServiceNow in the experience, the better. So when I take a look at, for example, you probably wouldn't know, but Disney Plus, if you open up a support ticket with Disney Plus, that's run entirely on top of ServicePortal, and you would never even know it. Like, you go to disneyplus.com, click on support, take a look at the support portal, that's all ServiceNow. Go to Best Buy, click on careers, and take a look at their careers portal, entirely run on top of ServiceNow ServicePortal. You would never even guess. Even the domain names, are custom. And I love that, because the end user, they don't care so much about the technology or the stack. They just want to have a great experience. Yeah. Now, a fulfiller or an admin or someone that works in ServiceNow, it's a very different experience. They're going to take the time to learn the tools and to learn the right clicks and all the little nuanced aspects of ServiceNow. And for them, the platform experience is great because it provides all the things that they need to be productive. But those two are very different experiences, and as such, I think it's great that we're able to keep them separated.
Agreed. Yeah.
Another question from the crowd, Nathan. This is from Amisel Belenas. He's one of our pre-apprentices. What is next for the ServiceNow Service Portal? How do you expect it to grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Service Portal as a platform and as a framework is only going to continue to expand. The demo portal, if you will, the little ITSM portal that shipped with Service Portal, is probably soon going to be deprecated. and is very quickly being replaced with Employee Center and Employee Center Pro, both of which are built entirely on top of the ServicePortal platform. But you get the new theme, you get new capabilities like targeted content and campaigns, but they're also adding in lots of new features, and there's a huge investment that's going into Employee Center, where I think we're going to start to see Employee Center hopefully start to dethrone, the corporate intranet being run on platforms like SharePoint. So I think over the next, few years, we're going to see Employee Center really kind of become front and center when it comes to the employee experience.
Yes, please. I mean, everybody loves SharePoint. Don't get me wrong. Everybody loves them some SharePoint. But I do think, to your earlier point, the more we can make the technology disappear and just be seamless and allow people to just get their work done, but also have that, like, the right piece of technology at the middle of people's, like, enterprise gateway into all these other tools. And I feel like, I don't know if this is a good way of looking at it, but I feel like that middle piece, it feels like ServiceNow is the natural middle piece.
Yeah.
Right? Would you agree?
Here's a fun comment that I have on that, and that is, let's be honest, no one comes to the portal for fun, right? An employee is only going to go to the portal to get something done.
Yeah.
SharePoint is great at what it is, but it's built really around document management, right? And after a few years, SharePoint is filled with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of documents and policies and articles and what have you. No one is really going to comb through that information for fun. They're only going there out of necessity. ServiceNow, being built around service management, or what I like to call it's the platform of action. That is where an employee actually goes to request PTO or to interact with IT, open a ticket, open a case with HR. This is where a user can actually go to make something happen. And like I said, no one goes to the portal for fun. They're only going there to actually get something done so that they can be productive and get back to work. And that is why I think ServiceNow is the ideal platform for the corporate intranet.
Love it. And I don't know if you just dropped the TM there. Is that you, the platform of action, or is that some marketing that they're putting?
I don't know. I feel like I've been saying that for a really long time, but I don't think I'm the first. Someone I must have picked that up from somewhere else.
And that actually brings me into a question, Nathan, really quickly. So what I know that a lot of the experiences that you built were for like the customers, the end users and things like that. And I just wanted to know, have you ever had any, projects that may have been facing more towards the fulfiller, more towards the admins, like making that process a little bit easier than like long forms and the way they have it?
Yes. In fact, that is a question that we get asked all the time. And we have dabbled a little bit with bringing some of the fulfillers into the portal experience and making it more intuitive for them there. But quite honestly, that's where it starts to feel like we're reinventing ServiceNow in a way, and we're competing with ServiceNow, and that is not where we want to be. So when it comes to very simple things like approvals, okay, we can manage group approvals and create some things like that to make it easier for some of the admins and some of the fulfillers in the portal. But really, as ServiceNow has been improving the UI, we really need to keep the fulfillers in the actual ServiceNow UI. That's what that is there for. And so even though it's a question that comes up pretty frequently, we do tend to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, really, the portal is about the end user. And it's not always an employee. Sometimes it's a customer, sometimes it's a citizen, it could be a number of different users, but anyone that uses ServiceNow as part of their job should probably be using the fulfiller interface.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
have to jump off in just a second, so I want to get a final question in there real quick before I have to dip. And that is, you mentioned earlier, knowledge. Mm-hmm. And knowledge has been kind of on my brain because I'm going to start opening up my checkbook and getting tickets and things. talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been like at Knowledge. Is it worthwhile for people that are thinking about, the platform, or, thinking about what would your take on being, it's now a good time to book your tickets for Vegas, I guess is the question.
Absolutely. Knowledge is my favorite event of the year. I highly recommend going to Knowledge if you have the opportunity to go. The sessions, the trainings, just the caliber of people that are leading a lot of those sessions and trainings, even the people that are developing some of the technology at ServiceNow are some of the people you're going to be interacting with. So, having the ability to sit down with them and kind of poke them and ask questions about, why it works one way versus another, provide feedback. If you're involved at all in the ServiceNow ecosystem, Knowledge is definitely the place to be.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I got to drop, but I'll be listening in.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike. See you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. We have some questions in the chat, I see. So I was going to go off for Anna Davis first. She said, are there any general plans to incorporate or integrate ChatGPT or any advanced AI capability in ServiceNow portals?
Yeah, this is actually a question that has been coming up quite a bit lately. So maybe not necessarily. So we actually have played around with ChatGPT specifically. That's not so much the one that I'm interested in as far as integrating it with the portal, but we do have some partners that we work with that have leveraged very similar technology, specifically around and training it on data sets specifically around IT and HR. And that's where I think things get a little bit more interesting. I'm not as big of a fan of the traditional chatbot. And part of it is just because when I take a look at the data and the analytics, I don't find that as many users are actually going to click on the chatbot and then go through and have a conversation that way. But if we can use systems like ChatGPT, machine learning, and AI to make the portal smarter, where we can, as maybe they click on health and benefits, and we're able to kind of take a look at who is this employee, what's, do they have a leave of absence or anything coming up, or what are the types of things that we can present them, where the portal actually is smart and it's able to make relevant suggestions. We have played with some portals where we just provide a big search bar and they can type in what they're looking for, and then we use machine learning or AI to try to make a better suggestion. That has worked okay. But I think as the technology continues to improve, we're gonna see it become more prevalent.
Yeah. Nice.
Got another question from the crowd, Nathan. This one's a little bit more general. As an apprentice, he's talking about in our apprenticeship, he's just getting started. What is the career growth like in the ServiceNow ecosystem? Is this question.
As a new apprentice with ServiceNow, what is career growth like? I mean, my experience has been much faster than outside the ServiceNow ecosystem. I find that, being able to specialize on a platform like ServiceNow, to me, what it looks like is there's more companies hiring and there's more demand for ServiceNow engineers than there's engineers available. And so your ability to grow in that career is going to be exponentially faster than, say, if you were just a regular software engineer. That being said, if you work for a company like NewRocket or any other partners out there, you have the opportunity of working, predominantly with Fortune 500 companies, which is, from a resume and portfolio standpoint, that's incredible. You're coming out of, after you've been involved in the ServiceNow ecosystem for a couple of years, you're going to have, major, Fortune 500 brands on your resume to say, I helped solve problems for these companies. And that's something that you're not going to find outside the ServiceNow ecosystem very often. So.
Go ahead, Deontay.
Yeah, nice. We have Alfred. We have Alfred Pinaranda. Sorry about that. Hey Nathan, what are some strengths you would want a potential NewRocket candidate to have? Also, what are some mistakes new ServiceNow developers can make early on in their careers?
So for me, it's attention to detail. That is something that I'm looking for. And again, I'm a UI guy, right? I'm a UI guy and entrepreneur. Those are my two things that I really, kind of subscribe to. But, I think attention to details, whether that's in the design, making sure that everything lines up and that, it looks aesthetically pleasing, or making sure that all of the buttons work and that the links all tie together. One of the things that drives me crazy is where I use something and there's just blatant mistakes in there. So test frequently, test often. Before you go show something to a client, make sure you test it and make sure that it all works exactly the way it's supposed to, and really put yourself in the position of the end user to think through how someone's actually going to use it so that you can kind of close some of those edge cases. But yeah, just being detail oriented, I think is something that I think is a huge strength, especially as we're dealing with things like ServicePortal. And looking at mistakes, yeah, I think not testing, and I think that's a huge one. You got to make sure you're testing everything.
I have another question. This is Jessica Novak. She's asking, are there any resources you would recommend for learning for those of us who are just stepping into the developer world?
Yeah, I mean, developer.servicenow.com is probably first on the list. Some of the tutorials on there are absolutely incredible. ServicePortal.io, I got to plug myself there a little bit.
I'm gonna drop that link right now. I was gonna say it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, some of my tutorials are a little bit older. I haven't created a lot of new tutorials on there, so I do need to step up there. But also, if you go to Udemy, udemy.com, there are quite a few trainings on there as well that I've found to be very beneficial for new developers to the ecosystem.
And you also created another resource, and this is for looking for jobs. Obviously, right now, people are using different platforms to search, but you put all the ServiceNow jobs onto one platform, and I wanted to drop that link as well. It's called SN Jobs. Can you talk a little bit about that, Nathan?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I mean, I've devoted the past 12 years of my life into the ServiceNow ecosystem, and I'm just looking at what are additional ways that I can contribute value and provide benefit to my friends here. So this is one of the sites that I have been working on over the past year. So it is a jobs aggregator that pulls jobs literally around the world, searches all the major job sites, including LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster.com, pulls all the jobs, kind of sets them up so you can search based on location, things like that. But also, I haven't even announced this yet, but it is live. There is now a new candidates feature where, as a ServiceNow developer, you can actually build out your profile, and then the companies can actually schedule an interview with you directly.
Wow, that's a new announcement right there.
Yeah, hell yeah.
He didn't even announce that before, man.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah, it just went live actually just a couple of days ago. And for anyone that has gone through the next gen training program at ServiceNow, ServiceNow has had most of their next gens actually complete a profile. So if you're a ServiceNow hiring manager, if you work for a ServiceNow partner and you're interested in hiring anyone that has gone through the next gen training program, go to snjobs.com, click on candidates, and I believe we have close to 100 candidates with profiles already set up.
We'll be sure to have all of our apprentices do the same.
Yeah, all of those next gen. I know there's a lot of shout outs to you guys. I know there's a lot of next gen grads out there. So you guys make sure you snap up that site. If you haven't already, make sure you get that in there. I'll drop that in the Discord for all of you guys watching.
Another question from the crowd, Nathan. I am curious about how big are the teams on average working on these service portals, and how long do these projects take in general? So I'm kind of interested also in the same thing, like the life cycle. I was just kind of wondering, when you talk to your client for the first time, I'm just wondering what that life cycle looks like from the time they kind of tell you, this is what I want my portal to look like, and all the way up to the time till like you're actually delivering it and it's going live. What does that whole life cycle look like?
Yeah. So the first portion of a project, Well, so I answered the first part of the question first. So how big are the teams? So we typically have a creative director and a lead designer that's going to be managing the design portion of the project. And as part of that project, they're going to do user research, wireframes, mockups, typically prototypes, so that we can do a little bit of iterative design and testing, going through kind of a design thinking methodology to make sure that what we're designing and what we're ultimately building is going to really solve the user experience or deliver a great user experience, as well as solving some of the organizational goals. That design phase can typically go maybe from 8 to 12 weeks. Sometimes it's a little sooner, faster, but it really depends on how many stakeholders we have involved on the client side. You know, you end up with 16 people in a room talking about colors, things can get dragged out for a little bit. On the development team, we typically have, I would say, maybe 4 to 5 developers that are working and building out the portal. And so all in all, between design, project management, and implementation, you know, I'd say it's maybe 7 people total that's working on a project. The typical implementation time is, or the total end-to-end, kind of beginning to end, is probably anywhere from, for a full custom portal, I would say anywhere from 16 to 24 weeks. We also have more turnkey, kind of accelerated projects where we're taking a portal that we've already designed and developed and maybe just applying more branding and adding some custom features on there. Those ones we can do in, you know, maybe 8 to 12 weeks. So it really depends on the requirements and the full scope of the project. And then we have much larger projects like full SharePoint intranet replacements that are going to take much longer.
And I think this is another follow-up question to that. It's are there any Scrum Masters on the team?
So we do a mix of Scrum, Agile / Waterfall. So it's kind of a mix of all of them. So we do have stand-ups. They're not necessarily daily stand-ups, although some teams do have daily stand-ups, but that's kind of more on a team-by-team basis. But we do have some Scrum Masters, but it's not an official Scrum methodology, partly because we do actually form the requirements and the design up front. And so it's kind of a mix of Agile and Waterfall.
Any more questions, Deontay, you have for our guest speaker?
I actually have none myself. Other than, well, I guess I do have one more question. What does kind of the future of, you know, kind of what is your next moves? And I just mean, this isn't for, you know, the NewRocket or anything like that. What are your next moves, man? You're always, your cogs are always going, man. So I just want to kind of know, like, what are your next moves, man?
Well, I'm here at NewRocket for the long term, and I love this team. I love this company. But I am an entrepreneur at heart, and I am always looking at new problems to solve. So, you know, at any given moment, you know, and SN Jobs was a perfect example of this. You know, I'm always playing with new ideas and new problems to solve. So, you know, I haven't quite figured out where that's going to take me next, but, you know, hopefully within the next couple of years, we'll be able to see another startup or so come out of it.
That's right, man. It was amazing to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Thank you so much time for spending. I'm going to drop one more link, and it's, you have a YouTube video of you kind of walk through NewRocket, and you kind of show everybody what it's like to work there. I want to drop that in there just so everyone knows, like, what kind of a beautiful office you guys have down there. And Deontay and I had a chance to talk to Nathan just for a few minutes right before we went on board. And we saw that office yesterday. We're like, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a hackathon there? And I know, Nathan, you said you might consider something like that. So I'd love to hear from the crowd. Would you guys like to do something like that? Have some kind of, you know, a hackathon get together over at this facility. It's huge. It's beautiful. And it would be great to share a space with Nathan. And maybe he could even be a guest judge for that hackathon. What do you think, Nathan?
Absolutely. And we have the full gym. We got a rock climbing wall. We have go-karts and a whiskey bar. So never a dull moment here. So, yeah, would love to host a hackathon. Would love to have you guys anytime.
So if you haven't seen that video, here's the link. I dropped it into the chat. Go check it out. I am going to drop your LinkedIn profile as well, if that's okay, Nathan. If anybody wants to connect with Nathan, definitely go ahead and reach out to him via LinkedIn. Thank you so much. We want to be respectful of your time, but thank you so much for spending your Friday with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Everybody
have a great weekend. We're going to see you all next Friday. Deontay, any last words?
No last words from me. Thank you, Nathan, for your time. Other than thank you, Nathan, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in from the Next Gen program, and everybody that's just tuning in from around. Thank you guys for giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Have a great weekend.
Good night. Bye.
Good night, everyone.